Rome, 1606, a tennis match, 2 men, 1 sword, and the crime that created some of the world's most valuable art. This is Michelangelo Caravaggio, not the famous Michelangelo, but arguably more dangerous. By age 32, he was Rome's most celebrated painter, known for revolutionary light techniques and using street people as models. But Caravaggio had a dark side. Street gangs, prostitutes, constant fights, and on May 28, 1606, he's playing tennis with his crew against another gang. Both groups are drinking heavily. The tension? They're fighting over the same woman, a prostitute named Lena. As the evening progresses, the arguments escalate. Suddenly, Caravaggio draws his sword. Some say he tried to castrate his rival. Others say he just stabbed him. Either way, he kills the man. The Pope immediately issues a death warrant. Caravaggio becomes a fugitive. But here's the twist. Running from the law, Caravaggio creates his greatest masterpieces. In Malta, he paints the beheading of John the Baptist, signing his name in the saint's blood, literally. He becomes a knight to get a papal pardon, then assaults another knight and escapes from an inescapable prison by diving from a castle into the sea. Desperate for forgiveness, he paints himself as the severed heads in his own work, Goliath, John the Baptist, sending them as pleas for mercy. Caravaggio died at 38, still a fugitive. Today, his paintings are worth over $1 billion, hanging in the world's greatest museums. The only known murderer in history whose collections of paintings are now worth well over $1 billion. I guess the question still remains, can you separate the art from the artist? This paint splatter sold for $140 million, but what if it was actually a CIA weapon designed to defeat the Soviet Union? Is modern art a psyop? Jackson Pollock, the chain-smoking, hard-drinking artist who revolutionized painting by dripping and splattering paint onto canvas, his chaotic action paintings made him the face of American modern art. But here's what they didn't tell you. While Pollock was creating his masterpieces in the 1940s and 50s, the CIA was secretly funding abstract art as psychological warfare against communism. The Soviets promoted socialist realism, art that glorified workers and the state. America needed something completely opposite to prove our cultural superiority. Enter the CIA's Congress for Cultural Freedom, a front organization that secretly funneled millions into promoting abstract expressionism. The goal? Make American art look free, innovative, and superior to Soviet propaganda. They funded exhibitions worldwide, paid art critics to write glowing reviews, and pushed Pollock's work into international prominence, all without Pollock knowing he was a Cold War asset. The Museum of Modern Art, otherwise known as MoMA, trustees like Nelson Rockefeller, who had CIA connections, championed Pollock's work. Was it genuine artistic appreciation or strategic cultural warfare? In 1999, journalist Frances Stoner Saunders exposed the CIA's cultural Cold War in her book, The Cultural Cold War. Declassified documents proved that the agency spent millions promoting abstract art. Art historian Ava Cockcroft had already connected the dots in the 1970s, showing how abstract expressionism served American foreign policy by demonstrating our freedom of expression. Pollock died in a car crash in 1956, likely never knowing his chaotic paint splatters had become weapons in a global ideological war. The irony? The CIA's cultural investment paid off beyond their wildest dreams. Pollock's paintings now sell for hundreds of millions, proving American art's global dominance. Was Jackson Pollock a genius artist or an unwitting CIA operative? Maybe both. Some claim he was even a willing participant. Sometimes the most powerful propaganda doesn't look like propaganda at all. What do you think? Is modern art just another psyop? March 18, 1990. Two men walked into Boston's Gardner Museum dressed as police officers. 81 minutes later, they vanished with $500 million worth of art and left behind the art world's greatest unsolved mystery. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum was a fortress of priceless masterpieces, Rembrandts, a rare Vermeer, works that could never be replaced. But at 1:24 a.m., two men in police uniforms rang the buzzer. We're responding to a disturbance, they told night guard Rick Abbott. Here's where it gets strange. Museum policy was crystal clear, never let anyone in after hours, but Abbott opened the door anyway. The moment those doors opened, motion detectors started recording every movement. What they captured would haunt investigators for decades. Within minutes, both guards were handcuffed in the basement. The thieves had 81 minutes before the next security check. They knew exactly what they wanted. This wasn't random. They walked straight to Vermeer's The Concert, only one of 34 Vermeers in existence, worth $250 million, the world's most valuable stolen painting. In 2025, retired FBI agent Jeffrey Kelly broke his silence. After 22 years on the case, he named the thieves, George Reisfelder and Leonard DiMuzio, dead men who can never face trial. The motion detectors revealed something chilling. Only the security guard, Rick Abbott, entered the blue room where Manet's painting hung. Was he helping them? Abbott died in 2024, taking his secrets to the grave. 13 masterpieces gone without a trace. The FBI has traveled to 6 continents, followed thousands of leads, and still nothing. Today, those empty frames still hang in the Gardner Museum, symbols of hope or monuments of failure. The $10 million reward, the largest of its kind in history, sits unclaimed. The statute of limitations is expired in 1995, so even if someone confessed tomorrow, they couldn't be prosecuted for the theft itself. Agent Kelly's final words haunt everyone who's touched this case. Those paintings could be anywhere on Earth. In someone's attic, behind a basement wall, hanging in a secret room where only the owner knows the true value. 35 years later, the Gardner heist remains technically unsolved. 13 empty frames, billions of missing art, and a mystery that refuses to die. For over 20 years, one question has intrigued the world. Who is the person behind the most famous name in street art? It started in the underground tunnels of Bristol in the 1990s, a teenager with a spray can tagging walls with Robin Banks. But by 2000, something changed. The freehand graffiti disappeared, replaced by something at the time considered revolutionary. Stencils, precise, political, and completely anonymous. But here's what most people don't know. In 2003, a BBC radio host asked the mysterious artist a simple question.
Is it Robert back? It's Robbie.
That interview vanished from the archives. For 21 years it was lost until 2024 when a researcher found the tape buried in the BBC's vaults. Scientists at Queen Mary University did something unprecedented. They used criminal profiling techniques, the same methods that catch serial killers, to track 140 Banksy artwork across Britain. The results? Every hotspot led to the same address, 32 Easton Road, Bristol, home of Robin Gunningham. But wait, there's other theories that actually hold weight. Music journalist Craig Williams discovered something chilling. Banksy artwork appeared in cities on the exact same dates as Massive Attack concerts: Toronto, New York, San Francisco. Too many coincidences to ignore. Robert 3D Del Naya, Massive Attack's founder, was Bristol's original stencil artist in the 1980s. Same techniques, same politics, same city. When DJ Goldie accidentally called Banksy Rob on a podcast in 2017, Del Naya's connection became almost impossible to dismiss. But the conspiracy goes a little deeper. A forensic expert claimed to find Jay Hewlett, Gorilla's co-founder Jamie Hewlett, listed in every business document for Banksy. When confronted, Banksy's team denied it, but they misspelled Hewlett's name in their denial. Was it a mistake or a legal loophole? The question isn't necessarily who is Banksy, it's what is Banksy. The artist, who more than likely started as Robin Gunningham, has become something else entirely. The evidence is undeniable. Recent projects like Dismaland, a full theme park, and the Waldorf Hotel required dozens of staff, international logistics, and corporate-level coordination. One person couldn't pull this off from a Bristol basement. Court documents from a 2025 trademark battle reveals a complex web: Pest Control Office Limited, coolest company name ever, by the way. Multiple shell companies, authentication systems that operate like Fortune 500 businesses. This isn't street art anymore. It's a multi-million-dollar operation. Whoever he may be, the graffiti teenager from Bristol created more than art. He created the perfect conspiracy, one that hides in plain sight, protected by lawyers, authenticated by mysterious companies, and defended by a network of collaborators who all share one thing: the secret of who Banksy really is. But maybe that's the point. In a world where everyone wants to be famous, everything is recorded, surveilled, and shared, Banksy proved that the voice with the most power might be the one that refuses to show its face. July 27, 1890, Vincent van Gogh stumbles home with a bullet wound. His dying words, "I shot myself." But what if one of the greatest artists who ever lived was protecting his teenage killers? Van Gogh, the tortured genius behind The Starry Night and Sunflowers, The Potato Eaters, who is famously known for cutting off his own ear, sold only one painting while alive called The Red Vineyard, and died at 37 from what everyone assumed was a suicide. July 27th, he walks into a wheat field in a small town in France. Hours later, he staggers back to the Revaux Inn with a bullet wound to the chest. To the police, he says, "My body is mine and I am free to do what I want with it. Do not accuse anybody. It is I that wish to commit suicide." 2 days later, he's dead. Case closed, or is it? Here's what doesn't add up. No gun found at the scene, no gunpowder burns on his hands or clothes. Evidence that would have been grossly evident with 1890s black powder cartridges. Enter René Secretan, a wealthy 16-year-old obsessed with Buffalo Bill Cody, who dressed as a cowboy and terrorized Van Gogh all summer long. The locals called Van Gogh Le Fou, the madman. Secretan owned a broken .380 caliber revolver that locals say worked when it wanted. Modern forensics proved the bullet trajectory was impossible for suicide. So here's the theory. One final bullying session went wrong. The gun misfired, striking Van Gogh from about 2 feet away, beyond the reach of his own arms. In 1957, at age 82, months before his own death, he finally spoke to a French journalist claiming that Vincent somehow stole the gun from him. In 2011, Pulitzer Prize-winning biographers and chief medical examiner Dr. Vincent DeMau conclude, in all medical probability, Van Gogh did not shoot himself. His last painting, Wheat Filled with Crows, ominous, dark, but not necessarily suicidal. The gun wasn't found until 1965, buried in a field for 75 years. Was Van Gogh's greatest masterpiece his final lie, saving 2 teenagers from a lifetime in prison? A painting worth $200 million vanished 80 years ago. We don't even know what colors it contains because the only photos ever taken were in black and white. This is less of a story about an art heist and more of the tragic loss from war and the empty frame that's still waiting. I'm gonna butcher some Polish pronunciations, sorry in advance, but let's get into it. Raphael, often called the Divine One, who painted for popes, and he died at the age of 37, leaving behind works that redefined beauty itself. Around 1514, he created Portrait of a Young Man, possibly his own self-portrait. In 1798, this Renaissance treasure found its way to Poland, purchased by Prince Adam Soratorski for his mother's Revolutionary Museum. Princess Isabella Soratorski had a vision, the past to the future, preserving Poland's cultural soul. Along with Leonardo's Lady with an Ermine and a Rembrandt masterpiece, the Raphael became one of the Great Three, Poland's most precious artistic treasures, displayed in the world's first public museum. September 1939, as Hitler's forces invaded Poland, Prince Augustin Soratorski made a desperate decision. He hid the Great Three behind a brick wall in the basement of a remote palace in Shinawa. 2 weeks later, the Gestapo found them. Enter Hans Frank, Hitler's personal lawyer and now the brutal governor general of the occupied Poland, the man Germans would call the Butcher of Poland. Frank shipped the paintings to Berlin for Hitler's planned Führer Museum in Linz, a monument to stolen culture that luckily would never be built. But in 1945, as the Allies closed in, Frank brought them back to his castle in Krakow for one last display of power. January 1945, Soviet forces advance. Frank flees to his villa in Bavaria, taking 20 paintings with him. But the Raphael, too large for a quick transport. He left it behind in a palace in Lower Silesia. May 3, 1945, American troops arrest Frank. The monument's men recover the Leonardo and Rembrandt from his villa, but when they search the Cilician Palace, the Raphael is gone. October 16, 1946, Hans Frank is executed at Nuremberg for war crimes. He takes his secrets to the grave. Of the 516,000 pieces of artwork the Nazis stole from Poland, the Raphael remains the crown jewel of the missing. Today, in Krakow's Czartoryski Museum, an empty frame hangs on the wall. The original frame still is waiting for its masterpiece to return home. In 2016, Poland bought the entire collection for 100 million euros, including the rights to a painting they may never see again. A Renaissance master's self-portrait lost in a world war, existing only in fading black and white photographs. We'll never know what colors Raphael chose until someone, somewhere, opens the right door. September 8th, 2011. A Houston mother hears a noise downstairs. She finds a masked man. She points to the painting and says, "That's the most valuable thing I own." The masked gunman takes it, and 14 years later, it's still missing. Pierre-Auguste Renoir painted this portrait in 1918, just 1 year before his death. Madeline leaning on her elbow with flowers in her hair, worth around $1 million. 10 p.m., a masked intruder breaks through the back door of an upscale Houston home. Male, 18 to 26, armed with a large caliber semi-automatic handgun. The homeowner, fearing for her young son sleeping upstairs, points to the painting hanging in her stairwell. The gunman takes it, complete with frame, and vanishes into the night. 2012. 1 year later, the FBI adds the Renoir to the top 10 art crimes list, reserved for the world's most significant art thefts. The reward doubles from $25,000 to $50,000. The painting's information floods international databases. Art dealers worldwide are alerted. If anyone tries to sell it legitimately, they'll know it's stolen. But here's the reality. No fingerprints, no DNA, no other witnesses, no suspects. 14 years of investigations, and absolutely nothing. Art theft is the fourth largest criminal enterprise globally, behind only drugs, arms, and human trafficking. Over 50% of art thefts target private homes. The recovery rate? Just 4%. What was really stolen that night? This painting shows Catherine Hessling, Renoir's final muse, who became Jean Renoir's wife and a cinema legend.
How's the ground?
Oh, it's good earth, all right. You know, dirt like this, a fella could raise the best crop in the country. It's been laying out all these years. But it's kind of like men, you know, it needs a rest every once in a while.
Ask an art theft specialist to discuss the truth, and here's what they'll tell you. Stealing masterpieces is easy. Selling them is nearly impossible. Many stolen works simply disappear, hidden in warehouses, destroyed to eliminate evidence, lost forever. Today, that empty space on the wall still haunts this Houston stairwell. The $50,000 reward remains unclaimed. The painting, somewhere in the shadows of the international art underworld. One terrifying night, one masked gunman, one masterpiece that proved even million-dollar art can vanish without a trace. You might know the Louvre as the home to the Mona Lisa, but hidden in the ornate Apollo gallery sits what's left of the French crown jewels. Emeralds Napoleon gave his empress, sapphire tiaras worn by queens, diamond brooches with stones gifted to Louis XIV in 1661. But this isn't the Louvre's first robbery. 1911, the Mona Lisa was stolen by a former employee, hidden under his smock, gone for 2 years. 1998, a landscape by Corot cut from its frame in broad daylight. It's never been recovered. October 19th, 2025. History repeats. 9:30 a.m., a truck pulls up, furniture elevator extends, 2 men in yellow vests, no one questions it. Angle grinders slice through reinforced glass, tourists hear screaming metal, guards rush forward. It's too late. 4 men, 2 smashed display cases while the other 2 wait on Yamaha T-Max scooters below, 560cc engines built for Paris getaways. 9 pieces targeted. The haul? Up to $550 million USD. That's almost as much as the Gardner Museum heist. Just the recovered crown alone is tens of millions, and France's premier auction house president says it's not even the most important item. What they took: Empress Eugenie's pearl tiara, diamond bow with 2,000 diamond stones, a brooch with Mazarine diamonds from 1661, Marie Louise's wedding gift from Napoleon from 1810, an emerald necklace with 32 Colombian emeralds and over 1,100 diamonds. Matching earrings, the Sapphire Collection's tiara with 24 sapphires, a necklace and 1 earrings. Alarms blare, tourists scattered, and the thieves run. Then panic. They drop the crown. It hits the pavement. Over 1,300 diamonds and 56 emeralds damaged, but recovered. A second piece drops, but authorities do not disclose what it was. But at least 7 escape on the scooters with the perpetrators into Paris traffic. They left behind an angle grinder, blowtorches, gasoline, gloves, walkie-talkies, a yellow vest, 60 investigators, 2 theories. Paris prosecutor either says a private collector commissioned this and the pieces survive intact in a vault, or they're being destroyed right now. Diamonds pried loose, gold melted, emeralds recut beyond recognition. Former jewel thief Larry Lawton says it had to be an inside job. How did they know the glass's thickness, the alarm protocols, that sort of thing? Expert Christopher Marinello says if they want quick cash, we'll never see them again. The odds? Museum heist recovery rates are extremely low. High-value jewelry, only 2 to 3%. Today, as the story still unfolds, the cases are sitting empty. President Macron vows justice, but as time passes, the trail will grow colder. Jewels that survived the revolution, war, centuries of upheaval, gone in 7 minutes, hidden somewhere in the world, or already destroyed forever. Paris, 1901. Pablo Picasso is 19 years old, broke, and sleeping in a freezing 2-room studio in France. He's just entered what would become his most famous period, the Blue Period, painting the poor, the lonely, the desperate, all in haunting shades of blue. That summer he paints The Blue Room, a solitary woman bathing in his cramped studio apartment. It's melancholy, it's intimate, it's unmistakably Pablo Picasso. The painting sells to Duncan Phillips in 1927 for his prestigious Washington collection. The 1990s. The National Gallery x-rays the painting, and there it is, a fuzzy shadow of something beneath the woman in blue. 2008. Infrared imaging technology finally pierces through 107 years of blue paint. The scientists see him for the first time. A team from Cornell University, the National Gallery, and the Phillips Collection confirms what everyone suspected. This wasn't an unfinished sketch, it was a completed painting. X-ray fluorescence mapping reveals Picasso used a full palette of expensive pigments: vermilion red, chrome yellow, viridian green. The hidden portrait was finished, dried, varnished, and then deliberately destroyed. June 1901. Meet Ambroise Villard, the most powerful art dealer in Paris. Just months before the Blue Room was painted, Villard gave 19-year-old Picasso his first exhibition. 64 paintings, this was his big break. The dealer wrote off the exhibition as a failure, though many works did sell, but they were at much lower prices than they both would have liked. Villard did not make another purchase from Picasso until 1906, when he bought 27 works from the artist for only 2,000 French francs. Picasso was stated saying that the dealer had bought the contents of his studio for a terrible sum. Many art historians believe the hidden man is Villard. The 3 rings on his fingers, the formal bow tie, the contemplative pose, they match other portraits of the dealer from the same period. The theory? Picasso painted Villard's portrait hoping to win favor with the powerful dealer. But when the show with Villard didn't work out, Picasso did what many poor artists at the time did. He took that finished portrait, that expensive canvas, and he painted over the man who deemed his show unsuccessful. He replaced Villard's formal, flattering portrait with a scene of isolation and poverty. A woman bathing alone in the same miserable studio where Picasso had painted Villard just months earlier. 9 years later, after Picasso became famous, he painted Villard again, this time in his revolutionary Cubist style. That portrait still survives, but the first one, it was buried for 107 years under blue. The mystery man's identity has never actually been confirmed, but one thing's certain: Picasso decided to erase him from history. Was the Blue Room Picasso's truly just an act of artistic frugality, or the most expensive screw you in art history? (1642). Rembrandt completes this masterpiece, a group portrait that breaks every rule. Instead of stiff militia poses, he creates explosive movements and drama. 1715. Amsterdam officials decide to move the massive painting to City Hall. The problem? It doesn't fit. Their solution? Take scissors to a masterpiece. In the moment, they slice off all 4 sides. 2 entire figures vanish from the top left, the top arch gone, the composition Rembrandt intended destroyed forever. 1911. An unemployed shoemaker attacks with a knife. The reason? pure desperation, and rage at his failed life. 1975, an unemployed school teacher takes a bread knife to the campus, slashing it over 12 times, leaving markings more than 2 feet long. The attacker had a history of mental illness and was charged with willful destruction. 1990, an escaped psychiatric patient sprays sulfuric acid across the painting. Quick-thinking guards douse it with water. They save the masterpiece. But filmmaker Peter Greenaway, who is a self-proclaimed conspiracy theorist, believes there's a much darker story. His controversial 2009 documentary claims that the Night Watch contains evidence of murder, that Rembrandt painted clues exposing his patrons for corruption, child abuse, and assassination. Okay, so this is a fun one. The theory goes, while Rembrandt was sketching the militia, their commanding officer, Piers Hasselberg, was killed. The official cause was accidental musket discharge, but Rembrandt didn't believe it. He suspected the captain and the lieutenant of the militia orchestrated a hit, so he decided to immortalize their crime in the painting. Greenaway says there's over 34 mysteries in the painting, like the soldier firing a musket directly into the crowd. Look closely. That's smoke behind the lieutenant's feathered hat. He was almost shot. Another mystery we'll cover here is the girl in the golden light. According to Greenaway, she represents something much darker, a child from an orphanage turned brothel ran by the militia's patron Rombot Kemp. 2019, the Rijksmuseum Museum launches Operation Night Watch, the largest investigation of a single painting in history. The masterpiece is encased in glass while AI and synchrotron radiation uncovers its secret. The breakthrough? Using a 17th century copy and AI trained on Rembrandt's technique, scientists resurrect the missing pieces. For the first time in 300 years, the Night Watch is complete. The main figures shift from center to right, 3 lost figures reappear on the bridge, the composition explodes with Rembrandt's intended outcome. Operation Night Watch proved that in the 21st century, some instances of AI can undo the vandalism of centuries past and not just rip off works as source material, but some mysteries remain unsolved. And was Peter Greenaway right about the clues? The Night Watch has survived 3 centuries of violence to reveal its secrets. What might cause one painting to stir up so many emotions? 2010, a Dutch retiree named Paul Post is cleaning out his mother's attic when he finds 3 leather-bound notebooks, his father's World War II diaries, documents he's glimpsed before but never really had time to read. Inside, his father describes witnessing the occupation of Holland's Diamond Bureau. These guys confiscated 71,000 carats, ballpark estimates around $300 to $500 million in today's value. One name appears repeatedly in the margins, Frederick Cajun, a high-ranking financial officer who oversaw the theft of diamonds, gold, and priceless art from occupied territories. Post recently retired from Hewlett-Packard, becomes obsessed. He publishes a book called The Diamond Heist. He contacts museums, he tracks Cajun's post-war movements across continents. 2020, Post discovers something that changes everything. The Cultural Heritage Agency of the Netherlands lists Cajun as possibly possessing Portrait of a Lady, an 18th century masterpiece that was stolen from art dealer Jacques Gugsteiker's collection, and Post knows exactly where the Cajun family fled after the war. Post reaches out to Dutch journalist Cyril Roosman with a bold claim: I think I know where the painting is. Argentina, Mar del Plata. Roosman contacts a freelance journalist in Buenos Aires, Peter Schouten. Together they start monitoring the family. August 2025. A real estate listing goes live, a virtual tour, a living room, and there, hanging prominently above the velvet sofa, is the missing portrait of a lady. The reporters publish their discovery. Argentine police raid the home of Patricia Cajun, the 60-year-old daughter of the former regime official, the very next day. But when they enter, a tapestry of horses hang where the painting should be. The portrait has vanished. For 8 days, as the investigators hold their breath, the family claims they're victims of a virtual scam. Their lawyers insist Patricia inherited the painting legitimately, that her aunt bought it from a German museum in 1943. The museum's response? This painting was never part of our collection. 8 days after the raid, Patricia's attorneys hand over the painting. Federal prosecutors charge her and her husband with aggravated concealment. They seize more than 20 additional drawings, prints, and portraits from her home and her sister's home. Evidence prosecutors say of decades of deliberate hiding. The original owner, Jacques Gugsteiker, never saw his collection again. He died in May 1940, falling into the hold of a ship while fleeing with his family. An estimated 600,000 pieces of art were looted during the war. More than 100,000 are still missing. How many other living rooms in Argentina, and basements, and storage units contain priceless stolen masterpieces? And how did they get there? How many secrets are hanging on walls waiting to be Googled, hiding in plain sight? Sir Joseph Edgar Bohm, the Austrian-born gift to the British arts, creator of the Victoria Jubilee head on every coin in the empire, royal sculptor to Queen Victoria herself with over 40 royal commissions. His most talented student, Princess Louise, Victoria's sixth child, the rebel princess, considered beautiful, artistic, and outspoken, something her mother despised in a royal woman. 1869, the 35-year-old master begins tutoring the 21-year-old princess in his London studio. Private lessons, no chaperones. For 3 months at Balmoral, they worked intimately. Some witnesses whisper to the extent of lovemaking. That is, until it's alleged John Brown, Victoria's Scottish servant, catches them. The Queen is livid. Louise threatens to expose Victoria's own rumored affair with Brown if she's locked up. For 22 years it continues. Louise marries the Duke of Argyll, reportedly a loveless, childless union, while Bohm just so happens to rise to become the empire's most celebrated sculptor. But the rumors never stop. Catherine Walters, mistress to the Prince of Wales, is said to likely be the source of the gossip about Louise's intimate relationship with her artistic mentor. December 12, 1890. Bohm, now 56, is alone in his Fulham Road studio with the 42-year-old Princess Louise. They're working on another sculptor, or so the official story goes. Suddenly, Bohm collapses, a burst blood vessel, a stroke. Louise is the only witness to the death of the empire's royal sculptor. The death certificate? Heart disease. The official story? Natural causes. But the timing? It's suspicious. The circumstances? Scandalous. Within days, Bohm's assistant, Alfred Gilbert, allegedly under Louise's direction, burns all of Bohm's private papers, every letter, every diary entry, every trace of his relationship with the princess, and much more. When modern biographer Lucinda Hawksley tries to research Louise in the 1990s, she's told Princess Louise's files are closed. Documents from other collections have been absorbed into the royal archives. The cover-up, it continues even to this day. Today, the Victoria and Albert Museum displays a mysterious artifact, a plaster cast of Princess Louise's left hand created sometime by Bohm, given to the museum by his executors in 1892. Why her hand? What was it for? Like so many other secrets about their relationship, the truth was buried with the man who knew too much. Was Joseph Bohm's death a tragic coincidence, a natural end to a brilliant career, or did a Victorian Empire's scandalous secret die with him in that London studio?